guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Mail. So for today, I'm going to go over a pretty entertaining email that was sent from a subscriber. This from a guy, I'm guessing he's probably in his 20s or so. I don't recall him saying specifically how old he is. And he shares his story how in his junior year, I believe at the end of it, he discovered who his girlfriend really was. This girlfriend who he had since his senior year of high school, did the long distance thing in college, terrible idea. And let me tell you, what he discovered ain't pretty. And I'll let you guys use your imagination and find out in real time here. And in that moment, our guy here, he goes down the right path. At least in my opinion, the right path. Because when you discover something like that, a heartbreaking moment, a shocking moment, a guy can go one of two ways. He can behave like most guys are and act like this pushover nice guy and keep being with that girl, forgiving her, listening to her BS, or getting involved with women just like that. Or he's born again hard and becomes a new man. He's R-pilled, and there's no change in him ever since that moment. And our guy does just that. He handles things like a boss. And let me tell you, he dishes out a very warranted form of revenge on her, and believe me, I think you will certainly enjoy that. And this is a good one to remind you guys, again, don't do the long-distance relationships. They're just a recipe for disaster. Yes, I'm sure there's some long-distance relationship dudes watching this that were successful in that, but it's very rare. And especially in today's world, where it's so easy for gals to cheat, and loyalty is, what is that? Which he discovers? Don't waste your time. As well as the age-old trust but verify. You can think your girlfriend's amazing, as he did, and still what happens. So you always got to pay attention to those red flags and act on it. And if they don't like it, tough crap. Then there's a whole other lot of lessons in there, but I'll point them out along the way. He says, Dear SSM, I've been a quiet viewer of your content for a couple of years now, and I thought about sharing my story for a while, and I decided to go for it. There are plenty of red flags every younger man should learn about, so slaps are warranted as they are obvious. I thought about this time of year is appropriate, considering the school year is about done, and plenty of high school and college men might adhere to my old mindset. My background. I grew up with a single MOM until I was 9 years old before she remarried. Oh boy. Before she remarried, my mom lectured me about the normal BS that women tell boys about how to treat their girlfriends. Oh, let's see how that worked out. During my childhood, I met her multiple boyfriends, and she was even engaged once when I was roughly 6 years old. Unfortunately, all of her lectures influenced my mindset towards women. Well, you know what, man? That's not your fault. Obviously, you were raised by her, and you're in school with female teachers, and you watch these shows and movies that condition guys to behave a certain way. It's no wonder so many guys are like that, But where are the men, Our biological father had custody every other weekend. He is quiet, introverted, and never gave me much advice about dating or interacting with women. Well, it sounds like he was clueless. So that's the problem. If young guys have a man, a lot of times they're clueless too. My stepdad was more helpful. Interesting. But I would not listen to him as much as I should. A lot of his advice was the exact opposite to the teachings my mom gave me when I was young. And yet he got your mom, the single MOM. Now it's funny, he got with her and, all that, but still. How do you think he got her? By behaving in ways, that your mama says that she doesn't like about guys, but still got her. This is why you take advice from men about women, not women about women. I did this whole nearly hour-long story yesterday when a woman wrote in, a young gal, saying that I was only 70% right about women, shared her whole story, wanted to point things out about things that I was missing, blah, blah, blah. And many of you heard this thing. And guess what? It proved everything I talk about. And I caught her in so much BS I called her on. It was an amusing story. No ill will, but still, you always take the advice from men. Some women occasionally get little tidbits of things, but don't do it. Anyway, he says a lot of his advice was the exact opposite of the teachings my mom gave me when I was young. So he decided to let me learn some harsher life lessons on my own. The best lessons are the hardest lessons learned. I don't blame him, as I had an attitude problem with all my parents until I moved out for college. Well, you probably didn't like him because he was your stepdad, but you shouldn't have shown him disrespect if he was trying to help you. But you knew better. Teenage you knew better, so here you go. Well, in high school, I was active in sports and groups and clubs. I wasn't the tallest or most athletic. I was 5'9" and about 160. I wasn't considered a jock or necessarily popular. I was a good student, and my parents had me working on our family farm on weekends. I didn't realize that I was considered above average in the looks department and body type until I got older. But we would get into that story later on. My story takes place about my girlfriend, or my story takes place about my girl that I regrettably held onto from high school into college. Let's call her Jessica. If there's ever a time that it's appropriate to have Jessica Jezebel, it's like a comic book name. Jessica Jezebel for a name for the chick in the story, this is it. Well, I've always had a type. My preference is for larger bra size and blue eyes. Just say you like big tits. We're all guys here, and the 4%ers aren't going to care. Jessica fit this very nicely. She moved from a small town on the other side of the state when we started our freshman year. I didn't really get to know her until my junior year. I learned that her dad was a preacher. Oh, what you're about to learn, gentlemen. What a stereotype. She was an athlete, and her body showed it. Jessica started hanging out around me more as we had multiple friends dating at the same time. My friends used to shoot pool a lot, and I enjoyed playing for quarters or dollars on Friday and Saturday nights. She would be there, and we would chat, but I never realized she was hitting on me. It's because you were clueless, but most guys are. At that time, I had a different girlfriend, and she was not as impressively built as Jessica. Well, that's why Jessica was interested in you, because you had a girlfriend. You didn't give a shit. The old girlfriend quickly got angry when she found Jessica had a crush on me. Well, naturally. I ended up breaking things off with the old girlfriend after 2 to 3 months of constant nagging and wanted to know what I was doing at all times. So you had one of those, huh? She was trying to be your warden. Well, good for you for breaking up with her. Over the summer between junior and senior year, this is high school, guys, Jessica and I got close and started dating. I learned that her mom and dad both had a history of infidelity and bounced around to avoid the rumors spreading through the churches that her dad would run. This is her preacher father. A history of infidelity, as in both of them, him or her, or I'm assuming him too. Yeah, that's a great guy to lead the flock. Give me a fucking break. I also learned that all of her siblings were actually half-siblings. Her father had a previous marriage, but it didn't last for obvious reasons. Okay, because he was a big cheater. Who the fuck would go to that church? Seriously. Oh, we're all sinners, and therefore you get the point. Anyway, I'd pick her up in an old farm truck, and we would go have our fun together, or hang out with mutual friends. Define fun. I thought she was amazing and attractive. She was not a first for any sexual activities, so I don't believe I had a first FUCK syndrome. But she clearly had talent in that department. Well, so she's like 16, 17 when you started dating. Lots of talent in that department. Well, where do you think she got that talent from? Lots of experience. Now, if you could have left it as, okay, you were benefiting from that talent, but nothing further in terms of like making her your high school wife. But no, these are little clues that this is not going to work. Look at her family, all the infidelity. You think that's not going to rub off on her? But you're young and you're getting laid, and again, you listen to your mom about women. Well, we did all the normal shit that high school seniors do during their year. Homecoming, prom, etc. As we got close to the end of high school and I prepared for college, we started talking about continuing our relationship. Thus, a long-distance relationship with a girl who's very experienced and talented in the bedroom. What could go wrong? No, you should have parted ways. She was going to school roughly 3 hours away for her bachelor's. I was going to community college on a full-ride scholarship. I didn't know they gave scholarships to community college because they're usually relatively inexpensive. But okay, hey, whatever. I should have ended everything when I knew we would be in a long-distance relationship. Woulda, coulda, shoulda, dude. She was neutral about continuing to date, but I pushed for it and finally convinced her. Dude, if your girl is not very enthusiastic about doing a long distance and you got to be the one pushing her, convincing her, how do you think this is going to go? Each of us would make a trip once a month. Most of those weekends were spent getting busy or going to a party. Our first year in college was interesting. We both quickly made new friends, attended parties together, and individually went apart. We would stay in touch daily. I did know several girls that would always want to chat with me, but it never seemed like they were hitting on me. Well, aren't you the guy that said you couldn't tell that Jessica was into you a couple years earlier? I would typically be playing a drinking game at a party with my boys. We always had girls around, but since I was in a relationship, I stayed faithful. Well, good for you because you're a good, honest guy and you're loyal. Do you know how many stories I've covered? And shit, this has happened to me when I was in college, where guys have girlfriends or wives, and other women like them, and these women make it obvious, and they could have easily banged some of these chicks, but they didn't do it because they were being loyal. Then eventually find out their wives or girlfriends, whatever, were cheating on them, and they're heartbroken. They're like, I could have so many times with Melissa and Jessica and Heidi and whatever, but nope, I didn't. And you know what I mean? Women don't care. And yeah, something like that happened to me when I was younger. And man, when I was 18, I could have banged Christy, the hot blonde I worked with at the restaurant. Yes, I worked with her, and but still, because of that girlfriend. But I was loyal. Look where it got me. I didn't get to bang Christy. And Christy moved away. And she was hot. And there was another incident later on with another one. But, so guys, remember that. Don't do long distance. Says here, where the hell am I since I started rambling on here? Sophomore year, I continued the scholarship, and Jessica started living in an apartment instead of the dorm. I was under the impression that she was still attending school. Well, what else would she be doing? She would tell me that she would be in class, and I didn't suspect anything. She also said she started working in a nearby restaurant to help pay for her living expenses. Sophomore year, I had multiple girls, roughly 6 to 8 of them, openly hit on me in person or via text. Yeah, you were, the saying, there's nothing more attractive than a man that's taken. You were a good-looking guy, you were an athlete, you had your boys, you did guy shit, and these girls are after you. But like, nope. It probably became a contest with these college girls who could finally get you to cheat. These were hookup situations that I now regret not being in a position to capitalize on. Yeah, been there, done that, man. But hey, you know what? Maybe you saved yourself some syphilis. Or catching some goddamn thing. Maybe I saved myself some of that too. Some were incredibly tempting. I would have girls in neighboring apartments ask me to come over or send nudes to me. I stayed faithful and determined to stick things out with Jessica. Jessica and I continued to stay in touch and visit each other. I would take her out on the occasional date and buy her a gift from time to time. When I would visit Jessica, I noticed that her friend group radically changed. We would go to some sketchy parties, and I always noticed a lot more guys compared to girls attending. Well, that's usually normal. The girlfriends she had 1 year ago were nowhere to be found. Uh-oh. That summer, she moved to the town that I was moving to. I would be completing my bachelor's on scholarship at a four-year university. She said that she was going to take the year off as she and her family had financial issues. Since I knew this, I helped furnish her apartment and would see her 2 to 4 times per week. Smack! Why are you furnishing her apartment? Let her pay for that shit. Well, I noticed that year she started getting very nervous about her phone and angling away at all times. What'd I tell you about the phone, guys? When they guard that thing the way a Jedi guards a lightsaber, you know something's up. I was dumb enough to not question anything. Obviously, we had a trusting relationship. That summer, I moved about 2 hours away for an internship, and I took a random day off during the summer to surprise Jessica since it had been a while between visits. Here we go. The surprise visit that displays everything. I had a key to her apartment, and I knew she was off work. I walked in to discover Jessica and a guy friend named Tyler sitting on the couch. You're like, who's this asshole? I was never introduced to him before and thought it was odd. It didn't seem like they were up to anything suspicious, but obviously I should have been questioning. I didn't even ask anything except to know the guy's name, Tyler. And like a dumbass, I believed all the excuses that Jessica gave me about Tyler being at her apartment. Well, in your mind, you had no reason to doubt her. And look what happened. She claimed they were co-workers, and he was going through a hard time after a breakup. What a load of crap. Jessica said she felt bad for him and that I had nothing to worry about. We had that night, and I noticed that she was restless. We went to sleep, and when I woke up the next morning, she was in the shower. Okay, here we go. Well, when I woke up, Jessica's cell phone kept vibrating. It was an oddly large amount of text that she was receiving. So I thought I would take it to her and let her know who was texting her. It was her good friend Jen that she stayed in contact with since high school. Thinking nothing suspicious, I flipped her phone open. Yes, we had those old horizontal flip phones with a keyboard. I can't remember the name of them. Okay, so this happened a while ago now. Before I was thinking you're in your 20s, you must be a lot older than that. If you're talking about the flip phones, shit. This must be in the 2000s. I started looking at the conversation that they had the night before. Jessica says to Jen, "We just finished putting our clothes on before he walked in, LOL. Jen says to her, OMG, I can't believe you didn't get caught. Jessica says, I told him that we were just coworkers and he bought it. Oh my God. So it's bad enough that she's cheating on you with that dude, and Lord knows the history of cheating, but you read the text and she's actually laughing about it and making fun of you? This takes her fucking bitch ass ways to a whole new level. Guess the acorn doesn't fall far from the tree. This is my point about paying attention to her family's like. All those years you're with her, all those years you've been good to her, stayed loyal, you could have been nailing every freaking Melissa, Jessica, Heidi, Christie's. Nope, you didn't. God damn. I read everything I need to know. I didn't send pictures to myself. or of the messages. I felt no need. I wish I would have to wreck her. I wish I would have to wreck her later. Jessica and I had an agreement not to lie or cheat. Well, the bitch broke that agreement so many times I can't even count. Either of those conditions would lead to us breaking up. Let me guess, those are probably her conditions. After I read the text between Jen and Jessica, I had a lot of emotions, of course. I started to pack as much of my crap as possible while Jessica took her time in the shower. When she finally got out of the shower and she was toweling off, I felt good about everything I could get out that was valuable into my car. Except for the furniture, of course. So, I didn't get the impression you're living with her. I get the impression you were visiting her a lot and you bought the furniture for her. But I guess you're there so often you had a bunch of your stuff there. That's what I'm getting from this. Well, I stayed composed and told her that Jen sent her several texts. I also let her know that I saw them. Jessica's face couldn't hide the guilt or surprise. She looked at me and said, wait for it, it isn't what it looks like. Bullshit. She looked very concerned but did not break down in tears. I told her there is no way you can talk yourself out of this. I've been stupid for way too long. She quickly put on a robe and ran to block me from leaving the apartment. She said, we need to talk about this. What's there to talk about? I did a decent job about holding my emotions. I simply said, get out of my way, I am leaving. Good for you, man. No one would blame you if you started yelling and started kicking the furniture and doing a bunch of... No one will blame you. The problem is all she had to do is call the cops and they'd blame you. And so would a jury, depending on how far it went and what she accused you of. Good job. Don't get mad, get even. It says here, she now turns on the waterworks as a Hail Mary attempt, of course. I told her, I'll be back for the rest of my belongings next week. I'm going back to work. Her eyes were in shock, and I didn't want to stick around for her to make up a lie on the spot. I walked to my car and hurried to leave so I could have my own breakdown alone. Good, man. You handled yourself well. And dude, no one can blame you for breaking down. If you had to pull over into the parking lot of Burger King and bawl your eyes out, no one's going to blame you. But don't be too heartbroken over a piece of dog shit like her. And guys, we're just getting started. You don't know the extent of how much of a piece of dog shit she is. Well, I had physical nausea-inducing reactions to knowing she was just effed by someone only a few hours prior. Yeah, did the bitch brush her teeth? I know she didn't shower before our activity. I drove back speeding and blasting my radio. Not smart or safe, but it's the truth. During the long drive, I had several calls and texts from Jessica. After I got back to the house I was living in, I had a call from Jen. Oh, for God's sakes. Now the best friend, enter the best friend to come and tell you it's not what you think. Or blame me, or she really loves you. That shit. Jen told me it was all a mistake. What'd I fucking tell you? And that I should listen to Jessica. I told Jen that my only mistake was not breaking up with Jessica sooner. I planned out my revenge and how to post on social media and telling our mutual friends, especially those in my hometown. I knew I was going to move back to my hometown after college to help my family farm. I didn't want any question about what happened. Control the narrative. So watch how he controls the narrative. So, I posted and tagged her entire family and friends in a post stating, I hope you had fun with him yesterday. I swapped my Facebook profile to single and put my phone away. He says Facebook was huge back in 2010. Aha, okay, it was 2010 when this went down. So, still people had flip phones. I sent her friends, and especially her preacher father, a detailed text of exactly what happened. I sent a text to Jessica letting her know I'll be back to pick up my furniture next weekend and to be at her apartment without any mail company in the afternoon. Good for you, man. Awesome. Let everybody know about her shit. But that's the tip of the iceberg in terms of what was going on with her. Well, that weekend, I packed up all the furniture I gave her and dropped it off at my parents' property. However, that was not the most interesting thing that happened after the breakup. I kept receiving Facebook messages from multiple girls. Most were from her friends from high school through college. They ranged from comments about her hiding and lying to simply being shocked. I learned that Jessica had at least 4 different sexual partners that started since we were dating. Well, if it's 4, it was probably more like 12. And I have a hard time believing it was that low. I'm sure it was much higher, same here, but that was the total I was given. Well, if that's what you were given by girls that knew her, I guarantee it was her. Try more like 40. I also was told that she was a stripper after her freshman year. Then I guarantee you that number is more than 4. Because let's be honest here, strippers don't just make their money by doing a little dance on the stage and people putting dollar bills in their freaking G-string. They make their real money going the back and doing all sorts of things I'm not going to mention on this channel. Oh my God. I'm sorry, man. Preacher's daughter, huh? She was a stripper after her freshman year, and she failed out of school because she would go to party instead of studying. What a loser. Apparently, she had 2 jobs her sophomore year. She did work at the restaurant during the day and stripped at night. Fucking loser. Well, I had 2 to 3 weeks of reflection after this information. Most guys, I would seriously screw up, and not in a way like being born again hard. I felt stupid, betrayed, and angry. I felt like my years in college were wasted because I was too stubborn to stick with my high school girlfriend. My plan for my senior year was to have the college experience. I kept all the contact information for her more attractive friends and some of the girls that showed enthusiasm in years past. Are you saying what I think you're saying? Banging some of her old friends? Because guess what? There's no such thing as fucking loyalty. I ended up sleeping with 2 of Jessica's friends and 2 others my fall semester. Awesome, dude. In terms of giving some payback to her. Just please tell me you wore protection. Everything was purely for my own enjoyment. For the first time, I felt jaded enough to ignore the nice guy actions I had previously. Well, you know what? It took you being badly burned from this whole thing, and I'm willing to bet you that some of the things your stepfather told you that you didn't want to listen to certainly made sense when real shit happened to you. If the R pill existed back then, I wasn't aware of it. However, I discovered it for myself. I focused up on finishing college on time and keeping my scholarship. Good for you. That's your purpose. Exactly. I have an update when Jessica contacts me years later. Aha. They always come back. But this is already too long of a story. I wanted to share with the young guys of this story. He says, please enjoy yourself when you're young and stay single. If you're faithful and moral, just stay single so you can have your fun. Also, don't be shy around girls and don't focus on just one. I promise they are almost all the same. Have a good one, SSM, and hopefully this makes one of your channels. Best regards. Well, dude, I get this was a long story. We're looking at 20 plus minutes here. But holy crap, you're leaving us on a cliffhanger. You're doing to me what I do to all you guys in these 2-part stories I do and cut you off and say come back in 2 hours. Yes, we want to hear about Jessica. I want to hear about what happened when she contacted you a few years later. I can only imagine the shit she was saying, probably because her life was gone to dog shit, you know? Yes, so please, brother, send the updated version of the story, what happened to her, what happened to you, where you are now. How old are you, by the way? I'm guessing of 2010 you were a senior in okay, 2010 you were probably 20 years old, so you're probably at mid-30s now, I guess, give or take. doing the connections here. But yeah, I want to know everything about Jessica, what happened to her, all that stuff. And guys, if you want to hear his update, what's going on, let me know in the comments section. And enough of you guys say write an update, whatever, he'll do it. But anyhow, man, I'm sorry it happened to you. You learned the hard way, but there you go. So remember, no long distance relationships. Focus on yourself then. If you want to date in college, guys, okay, but don't get too serious. Don't do a long distance relationship. Trust but verify. And even that gal that you think is so amazing would never do anything bad, blah, blah, blah. You have to understand, yeah, they can. And for God's sakes, pay attention to her family. I mean, her family was screwed up. It's no surprise she turned out the way she did. That's not an excuse for her actions, but still, it's no surprise. And a whole other lessons there. And I can just go on and on. And also, good job in the revenge part. You control the narrative and made her look like a freaking idiot. That's good. I'm surprised she didn't throw a tantrum when you came back to the apartment to get your furniture, but who knows? And that she was a stripper that whole time and lying to you and everyone was covering it up. That really does something. I'm sure you probably couldn't trust another woman ever again after that whole incident, and no one would blame you. Well, no sensible guy would blame you. There'd be plenty of women that would say, "Who hurt you?" and shit like that, but not over here. All right, guys, that's it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this. And guys, you got a good story to share, send it my way. strongsuccessfulmale@gmail.com. And if it's a good one, I most certainly will cover it. And be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.